yo ganga, dice Takenbonda, dicen Tataita, iRaka, dicen de Munda Praga. Y acá na funda en Kele con la manguaco. Ya huisa patrón fumbe que cuenta cheche, bacheche, arriba en todo, dice arriba en ganga. Willy yo dice va con licencia. Dicen Kisimusenga, dice va con licencia Mayamquere, Senteyandoki, va con licencia Kiyumba Infuiri, dice va con licencia, Zambiampungo, dice va con licencia, que todo un fumbe que cuenta cheche, dice arriba en ganga, dice en carajo, va con licencia Viento Malo, dice Luna Nueva, Siete Saya, Munalongo en Zambul, va con licencia Quimasa Cuatro Vientos, va con licencia Nueve Uñas, dice va con licencia, dicen como dicen piango piango, dicen finda, dice va con licencia, Cabo Guerra Tetetetie, va con licencia, en Pungo en Pumba, va con licencia Tata Cañengue, va con licencia Lucelo Suano, va con licencia Lucambe, dice va con licencia Soquinaco, dice va con licencia Quilanga en Pungo, dice va con licencia, dicen Fumbe, dicen Cará, dice que cuenta, dicen Cheche, dicen Bacheche, dice va con licencia Musilanga, dice va con licencia. Dice Guatariamba, dice va con licencia, en Cunialemba, Naribe, Sanganfumbe, dice va con licencia, mi Lucero, dice va con licencia, mi Sarabanda, dice mamá Kengue, dice mamá Umbo, dice va con licencia, dice mamá Chola, dice va con licencia, Don Fumbe que cuenta, dicen Cheche, dicen Bacheche, dice va con licencia, en Gusu, en Dundu, dice va con licencia. Va con licencia, dicen cheche, dicen bacheche, dice pa' que cuente el cheche, dice arriba en ganga, dice arriba en todo, dice carajo, dice lo propio, dicen finda, dice va con licencia. Si a la loma la miré, ya, ya. Si a la loma la miré, no va, ya, ya. Si a la loma la miré, ya, ya. Si a la loma la miré, no vamos, ya, ya.
Palo Mayombe is a religion of nature where its believers and priests believe in the Holy Spirits, believe in life after death, and their primitive forms date back hundreds of years. Brought this religion to the heat with the trafficking of snails brought from the African continent. From the Spanish it arrives to the US and Puerto Rico and Mexico, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Spain too, with the Cuban fleeing the island through communism. They swallowed their princes, expanding this culture, which is clear, Afro-Cubana. The coconuts are used to clean up believers, and belong to the deity that owns the roads. The priest of the controls, Afro Cubana, will help the person in need of or affected by witchcraft, who have made him other sorcerers or believers in this same culture. The coconuts, called Mambalaras, seek to cleanse the body of the believers are in the face of the Tulumana game, and ask for their needs is to open their paths away from evil. Today many people come to these religious called Tataita, which is the same as being a priest, and will speak by means of a spiritual consultation by means of marches. Do their research, and these shells have called chamalungus. There is a way to read which the tats can read. This culture fills many years of learning, and it is complicated and lasts many years. Learning such a culture, the primitive way we work dates from hundreds of years in time. We have to know, and they know the science, that the machete is signed to do any job. The first Irembo machetes is representing Kibur, the mother of water. The second machete represents a deity of 7 rays, Zarabanda. The third Zarabanda machete with Mamachola. The fourth equal to the deity we speak. The deity Mache represents 7 rays, Zarabanda 7 Reyes, owner of the thunder, of the war, of the drum, gunpowder, the owner of the iron and. Each deity must be trapped differently in its invocation of these beings. Organga and Kisi, the works at Cunalombo, El Monte, are made by the greatest priests, who know the secrets of nature, and their spirits to do good arts work, helping the God children who need to work with the machete bibilar machete. A degree of knowledge is needed, since the God children have problems with other religious, because of religious discussions, and enter into spirits wars. The God children often get into problems with spirits wars, bringing lots of complications, and dragging through sorcery work by other witches. The Godfather has to intervene in that Wanda, a spirit war, to remove the witchcraft, and the work they did against that godson. The motives for these wugas are wars often out of envy or misunderstanding of other houses, are religious temples, and that's only reason they'll do work, Sarah, witchcraft, which can be a graveyard. Invoking the dead spirits, these jobs to a doll with corn leaves representing the person. They take the godson to the Cunalombo mountain to remove the witchcraft made by the enemy and different rituals that were against him. To have problems with justice or problems with illness or accidents, the godfather will take away everything bad that he has done to his godson many times by turning the damage to the same pardon that he did. Taking many ceremonies from cleaning to the injured person's body, and cleaning ballads with herbs opens paths, and many more things relieving and removing everything bad that they did. The first thing a priest must have is nganga. This is made up of an iron cauldron, sticks, seeds, land of all countries, white weapons like machetes, canelos, spears, and some deity like Zarabanda will put a gun on it. It is only representative for the spirits, and these weapons can't be taken just to. The nganga, how can you see it? Here is a small world where it carries different lands, sticks from the mountain, the forest. These clubs are brought from Bucket to build these ganga according to the deity, and the soaks. The Nganga bear their names in this case. Lunganga Tulamana, its roots go back hundreds of years in the slave time in 1565 to 1665 approximately. These traditions were taught by the slaves who arrived on the island of Juana today, Cuba Island. For hundreds of years, this culture has continued to expand because of Cubans who left the island flee. In Cuba, they wanted to end all religions, convincing many practitioners that God didn't exist. Many believers in Cuba they bite their beliefs. Delukumi, the so-called Santeros, also detached themselves from Palo Mayombe by eating the license for young communists and abandoning their beliefs in many religious that way. Communism wanted to show that. In Cuba, they wanted to end all religions, convincing many practitioners that God didn't exist. Many believers in Cuba they voted for their beliefs. Delukumi, the so-called Santeros, also detached themselves from Palo Mayombe by taking a license for young communists and abandoning their beliefs in many religious. It was in that way communism wanted to. When the godson is a faithful believer in these hidden arts, the godfather teaches him how to do these religious practices, thus achieving a lot of knowledge that he must learn over the years in order to have the same knowledge of the godfather. Dedicate himself directly to doing good art like in Sambi Dios. To belong to this culture, you must be a good son, a good father, a good husband, respect your brothers and sisters, religious respect his godfather, who was the one who consecrated him, and his godmother help your brother in disgrace, and respect your ganga. You can't be a drinker, nor can you smoke cannabis, and the different ganga or foundation, the different deity plays an important role in the life of the believer. These priests transmits beliefs and knowledge of the godson is a person of good with his religious brothers and sisters. Pangi, and if he shows interest in everything of religion, the godfather will help that godson learn more of these beliefs, otherwise he would. The Tata Lamba has acquired knowledge because of the leer that it can be in the religion. The godfather is always a distrustful person who doesn't want to deliver what he knows about these cults. Many of these knowledge wins the behavior of the godson of the godfather. Respect is the basis of this millennial culture. And since snared 3 times, the first chance is to suspend it or punish it with the plan of machete on the back, with 21 strokes, can be strong or soft depending on the godfather who executes the punishment. In religion, you are not allowed to be gossipy, or allow you to bring gossip. Things are said on fronts ahead of the arthritis of spirits. That is this representation that we do the same can be done with alcohol or gunpowder, and this call it to snatch away spirits. Ankasi Molongo evil spirits. These areas also serve to do the good, like taking off some spirits who sent us or snatched us, or that hit us, or we have it by means of a work of sorcery, that they the theme is to take away the bad things. The person has this sorcery is only taken off with the same religion as Palomeo. That means that the work they do to him through the Palo It will only take away with the same religion as another priest from the mighty stick knows. He can remove that witchcraft with another religion. There are different gango according to the deities. The deities work with spirits, and each deity has its way of working through strokes, or signs identifying the ceremonials. These spirits come to the priest's call. The Nganga work in circular movements, first to the left. They are the currents to protect the heart of the Nganga. S owner then. Their currents are moving around to the right to collect witchcraft spells that send other sorcerers. Then Ganga are different depending on the deity. Whatever is, there are many different Ganga. Then Ganga can work to do good. But with them you can also work bad, work against some enemy. The primitive forms in these arts date back hundreds of years. The religious dedicate themselves to doing good to people with a small group working with both forces, that of good and also that of evil. The influence of these temple depends on the Godfather, who teaches their godchildren. Most of them learn to do good by not dedicating to the strength of evil. Lukenkasi, the god of bad arts. The religious say God. Say about all things that in Sambi will cut you off, that God takes care of you. This job that we are doing for a cleaning bathroom, what is it the way of the person who is going to do it? Every loop bath is called a deity or spirit of the guardian angel. That's why it carries different traces of signs depending on what need the person we're going to help. The spoil baths is important in the priestess knowledge. They must be done with great care because in view of helping the person, harm her if you do bad. That's the consecrations made by some religious who do not carry these laws, inventing not to accommodate the laws that are made with dedication and understanding, have confused this religion, bringing infinities against time to believers by making them a false of this culture so respected by their followers. There is a group that is determined not to bring the laws to which we Ganguliers govern. We in no way accept these toxic forms of lying, while improper methods of lying, while not accepted by the Tataita priests who are the ones who impart such knowledge. There are some sort of consecration scratches. Cross for the first scratch called Guayo and stripes for the second stripe of Tataita. If she is a woman is called Yayankisa, is the way they strip believers. The lack of knowledge in these worships has given feet to all these barbarities as Rayamitas' hitmen. Breaking the teachings that respect for people is that failure to comply with this culture has brought many problems to the believer. Kibir named Mama Humbo, owner of the ocean, the sea, and its depths, one of the strongest deity in these believers, where the Tats make the hairiest of their spirits, who are horrific and very respected by believers. The priests send this type of spirits to scare other Ganga spirits of the enemy. Kibir is classified as dead, that means that she. Kibir, the owner of the ocean, and the bottom of evil, one of the strongest deities that exist in these beliefs. When there is a sick person, made his nerves, yes, she is a cause for discontrol through work or witchcraft that has done to her. It is very likely that the person will find me a lot. If the problems are caused by some work that the person has done to do a job with a plant called Kisis vegetator, and they will take away the bad things about that person. The priest did to him. The priest does several inlets to remove the influence of the damage they did to the person, and his tinaja will represent the sea, and it cannot be uncovered by it is something we say, but it carries more things and secrets that we cannot mention. That heap is used to toast when there is a visit to the temple, and is given a little of that drink as respect to Tada, with a yea, the religious woman. That heap is sacred. Every deity has a stroke, a sign that is called, and asked of those spirits. The stroke that represents the goddess of the sea is a square divided into four with two arrows with four ends, and the square divided with four circles, that we paint in the Tinajati Baro as we can see on this positive day. The greatest representative of these priests are called Tatandi. If you ask what Ganga is, we can say that it is a three-legged iron cauldron that carries sticks from the whole world's Mount Bone Earth, and many more things like machetes, pistol belly, clamp of lines of the train lines that are called yuntas, consecrated stones, magic, and many more things until they form that am. Also, without a shirt and with a necklace that crosses her chest that protects him from witchcraft and takes care of the heart of the Tada. They put a red handkerchief as an identification of the deity to which she is going to work with her. If the handkerchief is ready, will work with the deity of seven rays that own. In these beliefs of Palo Mayombe, we say that the person has three spirits that protect him. Let us set an example for a better understanding of the subject. When the person gets sick, a spirit of the three he has, the person separates because you're sick. If you go over, that spirits will return. But if you stay sick and get worse, the second spirit separates from the person waiting for the death of that person as material. If you improve and don't die, that two spirit will return. But if you die, those two spirits separate from the person, and it's when you fall, and only the spirit that protects that matter remains. That body, that spirit has to go through a transition to see how the body breaks down. Many spirits leave their bodies to go hack through the places that person walked, or live to spend that spirits to be purified. It must suffer looking at how the worms devorate the flesh. It's the only way that the spirit purifies all the damage it did to life by making pays for all those faults that he committed. The feathers serve as antennas to set an example that collect the bad current from the body. They will collect the bad currents of the body through work. That's why animals pass to clean the person when he or she deserves to do certain cleaning. Work the way to work with animals so that the animal picks up his bad current states from hundreds of years. That's why science are calling the deity. What do you want me to help you do in that cleaning job so that the religious peace made of Insuzo? White feathers of rooster collect or transmit bad current. According to the work that the Tata does for hundreds and thousands. Every work that is done is called the spirits, and deities only this work can be done by the Tats or Yayas. And the highest authority at Tataita bottlenecks are a little complicated, has to go through the matter to that spirits, so that this work can be bottled or maintained. In a Taba to this day, not all of the religious at Palo Mayombe can do these jobs. When we work with coffee erase, the coffee erase can have sugar as long as we do a job with coffee eraser. It is to hate the person the job he is asking for in order to do the jobs. These works with coffee eraser work so that the people who are made to them have difficulties in their daily lives are often done to separate people or separate a marriage, using different palo win or palo I can more than you, azog mercury, and pepper the name of the person also earth or dust, where he has stepped on those people and many other things. Although this religion their believers do good, there are also some of these religious who work with bad art, almost always in a war of spirits, where they make a doll representing the person, and moor him by the neck. Says the priest that you should not do evil to anyone unless they do it to you, and if you can defend yourself of the witchcraft that makes you use the art of bad strength at will. When we do work on Mount Cunalumbo, we can change the currents of our body in the invocation of the spirits of the mount, and above all, of the deity of Zarabanda, the owner of the iron, and Mount's deity is a warrior called to remove witchcraft thoughts and envy that many friendly people have coworkers. Priests have temples of worship where believers visit to ask for their health economy and rid them of witchcraft or envy or bad thoughts. Against them they give a Makuto, a talisman, for their protection, thus opening their paths not only economic but also for love. These are religious pieces that the Tata the priest prepares in the involvement of the deities and spirits that they exist among friends, siblings, family, coworkers, even those who find you walking. This religion is learned in practice. We must practice this primitive form of work in order to learn from them, and above all, from the Godfather. Work can be done with pumpkin, and in that way you do work for love, also in other bad job opportunities, depending on the need of the person looking for work. With pumpkin you can do good or bad jobs in the invocation of the deity of Mama Chola, owner of love, owner of the gold of the rivers of women, ribbons, owner of copper metal, and owner of honeybee, owner of the money. The daughters of this deity are very lucky in love, and have a good economy, but she likes the Agendo married man, and these daughter women of Mama Chola are very sexy and very jealous by the couple who have and can die for a man as seal. The priests turn on gunpowder to awaken the spirit of law, and Ganga spirits are also sent who call Arias. This can also be done with alcohol or gunpowder that is called fully. You have to have a degree of knowledge to do those jobs. If you don't know, you can't get in. Only Tatas and Tataitas. The old priests teach their godchildren. The old priests teach their godchildren to follow the traditions that are often spoken orally, and the godson will have to learn many times. Only the explanation is said by the godfather once, and if he does not learn it, he will remain unlearned, and that is a big problem for which he studies these arts of the Palo Mayombe. Afro Cuban of the Cuban believers have imported this Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Costa Rica, Spain, USA, and Cuba. This religion of Palo Mayombe has expanded to many countries by Cubans who fled the island of Cuba for communism. This sign called Patapembasaya Kimbungula belongs to Lucero, the road owner, or is the one that opens the roads or closes it. He also owns the crossroads. He keeps the balance of his house, and the priest almost always uses it to start a job. whether good or bad, depending on that need for the in which you do them this. The priest asks for the Ankasiti and Ganga with a candle that they call Impemba. Every way of order is varied, according to what the Tat asks for. These forms dates from hundreds of years, and they are enforced today by some Tats. The most knowledgeable about these arts license from Coamba and Furus, Tataita iRaka. According to these beliefs of the priests, they, by means of stroke signs, can call the spirits of the cemetery of the Mount or Delmar, and even the ancestors of Africa the spirits. These forms of work through stroke signs are the invocation of the spirits. It's like a Tada sends identities to other people to solve. In many cases, through these strokes and spirits who go to the religious, the Tada can do the necessary work if it is for good art or bad arts, depending on the needs of the people who come to help in these hidden arts. The most authentic expressions, ever expressed in a contest that can put it despite this, it will make its own conclusions in an art and culture field or. The so-called Dundo Gusa are representative of deities that are used in the work of these believers, not ignoring the spirits who are among us, and guide us. These beliefs that came to Cuba, and this religion has been maintained and expanded so these practitioners and believers of this millennial culture do their work innovations, resorting personal affairs from their belay. The work in this culture is based on the knowledge that Padre Noel Tata has and the strokes that this job we were using a white dish so that he can make the signs. Sign strokes in the middle of Miramontes, like a small tamal of corn leaves. This is called Masango de Wandagara. There are different ways to mount the four. She works with Lucero. This deity opens the way and closes them, and is delivered with Nganga because they work on gear. Lucero works with any deity, helping the person open his paths. It's in the Gordiero category, which protects the person. His name is Igusa Dundo, and like other deities, he works with signs called Paddy. Also preparing powders that call poles. These powders are prepared with scratch sticks as a winner. Gigi breaks an axe, oak stick Ramon, and also with pepper and earth if it's from the graveyard or from the mountain. That dust is blown in a strainer, then it's also blowing, and spirit always blows it. Just like all the work done, the deity and the spirits are plucked on a trace paper as we look at it. These dusts are done here. They are done with the intention of sending a spirit to resolve a conflict or disobedience, or in many cases a wound a spirit, where always these powders are made with caution. In many cases they carry animal. These priests divine with a white dish that they chase, with a candle knowing the present, past, and future of the person, or asking about the work they are performing. The mystical, the magic in these works invoking the spirits. Speaking a dialect, Congo opens up Girandinga, everything in fury that Nganga tells you that he is talking to all the spirits of the Nganga to listen to him. The rituals are a little confusing for the people who are not a practicant, that the Afro Cuban Mayombe, Palo this culture, is net. Afro Cuban no country can say that it belongs to it, only Cuba. Work on a cunilombo. The mountain is an essential part of the priest because on the mountain he can clean his body. The combo does clean up work that benefit the needy person in order to remove spirits, witchcraft, bad eyes, or bad thoughts against the person, changing the aura current of the person, moving away the bad spirits around us in an effort. There is a secret way to ask the spirits. Each religious temple works differently, but there is similarity in the strokes that the tats do. They can know some of the presentations or work they do behind closed doors, so that they don't exist. Curious that they know their primitive forms to which he works, keeping secret even how they ask the Ikasi to hook spirits when. The Tataita maximum authority in cults to which they respect for the knowledge that it impart to its followers not only on social networks but impersonating it. The Ganga call is like a small world, where these Ganga have everything in small quantities. The hooks are different according to the deity, whichever works differently according to work. The signs are important strokes are so-called patapambis in religion. The mixture of Christianity in this culture played a predominant role in the beliefs of the Creole. Many Africans who belonged to these cults didn't look favorably at such a mixture of Christianity. The Mayambers, the priest used these forces to solve the problems they had in their daily lives. Many Cubans come to these cults and of other nationality, hiding from hiding, feeling protected by this force that is often felt. But they don't see it already know that communism in Cuba they banned all kinds of religion, regardless of Cubans in hiding perform their ritual. The representation of Mama Chola, owner of love of the gold, owner of the money of the belly or women's ribbon, the owner of the copper metal, also of the honey of the Rios, the owner of coral stone. Work is done to unite two people when the emotional part of the couples is in decline. Believers in this culture will help people get. These signs are representative in the different representations of deity according to the ways of working of these believers, who were taught by their Gautams. The way these believers have to maintain the religious laws of their teachings is the most important thing, because they can't change jobs, they would lose their strength. And how do they say the magical, even though they say that the magical doesn't exist in this case? Yes. In the signs they do a Tata or a Tataita or a Yei. The masango are made as we mentioned with the leaves of maize, and if presented to spirits who live in the hook when these masango is built according to its hierarchy that it has an nganga, and the spirit is called by its name offering to candle, tobacco a gourd eat an animal a rooster, if it fulfills the work entrusted by the Tata the works can be resolved or half time. But you'll always see what the priest does. The Masangas are done according to the work they need, and there are different ways to build it here. We publicize presentations that we make with the corn leaf. These works have never been taught. Their internships are only religious ones of mooring with a strip of corn. They can moor anything spiritual, or material like a spirit or live samo, trapping there. Every temple is independent of every believer or practicer of these Mayam Palo rules, but they have a godfather who solves the problems related to this culture that gives them are powerful with El Paso del Tiempo, y de los años. The masses is presented to a spirit that belongs to this religion and life, and that works in the Gango according to the hierarchy of the spirits. It is called to do the work according to what will be needed. The power of the natural envelope that exerts its strength in the hidden it is such a fact that it is happening today, and that many who see this. They use a monkey spirit in Inkua to protect the Nganga, and that the animal warn if they send witchcraft for that is. These religious people protect themselves from the evil of other sorcerers. From other religious temples, we can be amazed at the beliefs of the priest of the Congo rules of the Mayam stick. And the Tata mimics the dead ancestors, and paints with plaster named Femba. So it represents to the death the way they have of asking the god of bad arts to Kanda and Pamba the carrier of world asking in other dimensions in the underworld to attract evil Malong spirits to defeat Wanda war with another priest knowledge in this religion. Yea Lucero the deity, that is represented a naughty child who opens the paths, and kills her laughing, and is said that Bedman Sajarab of Insambi god, and all deities can work with him. It is the one who must ask permission to open the paths of the Ganga, and the path of the work that the Tata and the Yea do. We are teaching the beauty of this culture and its signs are so-called patapembis. The signs are made in a white dish that we first smoke with a candle. These representations date back hundreds of years in the time of the slaves in Bucket. Tataita iRaka, who is knowledgeable for 56 years, is a culture that works it almost every day. She lets you know a lot about work done behind closed doors, the exploitation of religious people who don't carry this law from the Mayomayan. How do they face rejection of those who know this culture best? Opening a door to these teachings. Patapemba signs are done at work, and the religious should know how to work with them. Until they build a ganga, the corn leaves cannot be missing from the temple of the Padrino Tata because there are many works with corn leaves called Suri. Misango, the covenants are treated with the spirits depend on the knowledge that the godson of their god. This snail of Centella in the religion is the deity, owner of the cemetery, and the dead. And spirits, the door is open for the Ganga to look for her own spirits when you work. That arts they call him Centellan Dope. The religious must all have a nine Alice snail. Because if they don't have it, Centella is known for the strength and power it has based on spirits in the Mayam stick when doing work is given in sacrifices a hen tightening. The representations of the works are made with a small coffin that always has the Ganga so that Spirits can work with the spiritual mind when they need it. They'll bury in the coffin to enemies, and they will take them to the holy camp to bury them in life when they dress up work with this deity. Many religious fear that they will do them a job on the Endoken track. They tell him that when the religious works bad arts, Sentella Endoken. The Tataita iRaka's Tulu Manahuk represents Gangamayom, who is the spirit that has no head that is represented in the force of one's own nature, the power of spirits, in closed ceremonies. The works are kept in taboo even for believers themselves, and even though you can know about these rituals always kept in secret. Mother of water named Kibur, owner of the oceans, and depths her spirit of this deity is horrific. That's why we demonstrate it this way. Other spirits fear him. She's in the death category, and when we do a job we can do it together with Sentella, the cemetery owner. And there are two deities who also do good or bad work together in a showroom. They are very powerful. The Mother of Water is also in the bite category, because she owns the largest cemetery than Mar. The fundamentals of Nganga in the different temples, where their believers ask the Ni Rod Ganga when they do a job to clean the person he hugged, cleaning their material, the body when they have communication. The spells in the Congo dialect that they speak in a bucket or dialect. Lango is how they talk to those deities, and this representation is from Lucero. It's the deity that opens the way when we want to help. And open the way for the successful person we'll call Lucero Mundo. Just like if we want to walk the person S ways when doing an enemy S job. We also work with Lucero Mundo, and the god of the bad arts, Dope. If the person has justice problems, we do a job in the Guadariamba roads. We use an iron metal arrow, so we can do a job when there are justice problems, so that the person gets the best he can with those problems by sweetening the work with cane melon, and be honey treating cotton that will represent in Sambi. God the triangle will represent Vista. The person may already be prey, and we do this job so that he doesn't have time in prison helping. He has to make the person have fewer problems or get in front of. The ancients of this culture made this piece with rope from the bark of the trees, a specific tree that they knew, and that used those strength to destroy their enemies. They almost always lived in the field, and circa of their house they buried that piece with nail against the enemy. And that person always went through the threesome or path, and had to step on that witch. The Godfather makes them find in nature a carryable head, and that stone will bear a name of a spirit of the hook, and harm work with her in the different ways the gangster works. Many of these pieces are kept in a taboo, and not taught in the way he works. Only the Godfather will tell how one can work with that stone head that is important in a. Almost always the Godfather does work to remove the bad currents of disturbing spirits or witchcraft that make people clean the body of their children, so that they have a better life, and can find a suitable couple to them, and that everything continues to accommodate them to their daily lives and doing work for their economy, like the one presented on this slides. Health cleansing or removing obstacles or witchcraft from the roads of people, especially those who practice Palo Mayombe along the Zarabanda roads. The owner of iron, and the so called Mount Cunalambo, the star is called cold in the representation of the sea with the deity Kibur, owner of the oceans, and depths of it. These answers work is kept secret between the religious temples or the Congas house, and the Sacerdotetno will teach other priests to know the work they do in their temple or on the mount with nature, and Zarabandi you will influence dead ceremonies. Like this is to cleanse the person who has bad letters of illness or accidents, taking away everything. These believers from Palo Mayombe are among us without knowing who they are because they don't identify themselves with necklaces, or anything that discovers what it processes, or anyone else does if they are a man about all things or if they's a woman about all things. They will belong if they want, and if they have that letter get agreed they will work with. The priests, the tats, also prepare cleaning bathrooms to remove the bad actions produced by witchcraft. These of the same Mayom stick have to be cured. The person with the same influence of the Mayom Palo, there is no religion that removes bad work done by Witchcraft from bad spirits or gurus, believers come to their godfather too. The disposal baths will open the person's way with aromatic herbs. As a dead spree, it opens paths, and many more things. The spoil baths are according to the person's guard angel, and are made on that person's religious paths or a believer, by taking away everything bad, cleaning the person's aura for a better life. Let's hope that they're understanding this culture that's among us more. As they say in religion, prime God, that everything that in Sambi will cut them, that God always takes care of them, learns about Afro Cuba culture.
Suonga il governo di Signore. Except for the police and the police and the police and the police of the way.